Hi, welcome back to another episode of Simply Single. Today we're talking about an issue that probably affects mainly older single females than anybody else, and that's about the old maid. Do you remember when you used to play Old Maid card game? And Old Maid was a card everybody tried to get rid of? Well, I want to know, does the old maid still exist? Let's take it out to the street first and see what you have to say, then we'll talk about it inside.
Okay. There is still a lot of pressure in society that if you get over 30, that if you're not married or starting a family, if you're not building a home together with somebody, that you're going to be that way the rest of your life. And it's hard to deal with, but I turned 31 last year, and there's still time to go, so one day.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing your viewpoints about the old maid, but let's talk about that. When I mentioned the card game, you guys are like, really? I've never played that kind of game. The old maid card game, you didn't have that? You didn't play that at all? Okay, real quick, this is how you did it. It was a matching game, and so you dealt out cards to everybody, and you had to get 2 cards of the same thing. That was a set. And whoever ended the game with the most matched sets won the game. But if one of those sets included the old maid, you lost. You lost points. So therein lies the whole idea of not wanting to get caught with the old maid. It was a negative type of thing.
Or to be the old maid.
Or to be the old maid. And so the stigma of being older and single has kind of been a negative stigma, like the old maid. The old maid is the one who's not desirable. Nobody wants her, so she ends up all by herself, living with a sibling and cooking for them, or she's got a bunch of cats and she's looked at as not being attractive, not being desirable. That's the old maid. So the question is, does that stigma, Angie, you look like you're about to jump out that seat and
I'm sorry.
And samurai me. Okay.
No, I've never understood the concept of the old maid, because if a man is older, he's distinguished, he's elusive, he's avoided getting married all this time, so he's this big, huge catch. But if a woman does that, now we're supposed to be all these negative connotations? I don't think so.
Well, it has been. And that's what I'm asking. Is it still that way? It has been that way. And yes, I think it's that typical double standard that exists.
I have to say, I think it's in how you work it. That's, I'm sure we've all seen Sex in the City. Nobody would say Samantha Jones is an old maid.
No.
I think it has to do with how you carry yourself. And my gosh, if you've got 18 cats, you're crazy anyway. I don't think that had anything to do with you being single, But I know some single women, and they own it, and they're traveling, and they're going, and they're doing, and they're older, but you would never consider them an old maid. And then I know the women who, they do. They stay at home and they've got 18 cats. And, if you're going to behave that way and present yourself to the world that way. Then
nothing against cats. Let me just throw that in there. We're
Right.
not cat haters. Okay.
But I do still think that stigma definitely is there. And I also feel like that maybe if the truth be told, more than half of women get concerned about that after a certain age. What you're in your 20s and 30s, you may not, but once you get 40 maybe, and you haven't even been married maybe the first time,
right?
And it definitely, if you're 50 and haven't been married the first time, then you begin to question, like, is this my calling in life? Because Lord, I don't want this calling, or is it because I'm undesirable, or what do I need to change about me? And the double standard of it, like she said, is that men are distinguished and mature, and they're the catch of the day, but they also can get younger women. And so that becomes a problem, because when they get older, they don't want the older woman, they want the younger. But it's hard for us to get, the older man. It's sometimes not hard for us to get the younger men, but that's a whole different show.
That's the Cougar show.
Yeah, right. That's the Cougar show. That's a whole different show. But so we do get at that age where we feel like, well, now I'm in an age where men aren't going to want me anymore. They're going to want a younger woman. So I do believe there is still that underlying issue issue.
So
of old
maybe
maid.
it's not necessarily called an old maid, but a negative stigma about particularly
Definitely.
being older and single. Do you feel any kind of negative stigma about being single still?
Well, go ahead, Ruth. Yeah, I keep talking. I'm gonna let you go.
Okay. Well, like in my family, I'm the only one single, though I was married before, and I chose to be by myself. You know, so it's a choice. I'm fine with it for now.
Okay.
You know, but my family does want to see me married. It seems like it's something hanging. Like if something were to happen to me, who would take care of me? You know, who would take care? I don't have children. I don't have a husband. So I feel that something, a cloud hanging over my head. And my mother's like, oh, you have to have at least one child, you know, a little companion. I was like, I'm okay. Just I don't say anything, but let me deal with it.
Okay. All right.
Well, and I have to say, Dr. Renee made a good point. I mean, I can remember being in my late 20s, and there were a lot of men in their 40s and 50s who would hit on me instead of women in their 40s and 50s. And I don't get nearly, I'm 35 now, so it's not that much older, but the attention has definitely lessened. I joke that the newness has worn off.
But that,
But you do see a waning of attention.
I do, but it's not the attention I would have married anyway. I mean, I'm not looking for an older man that's going to replace me with a newer model in 10 years. And a lot of times I've found the older men are looking for younger women because they don't want a challenge. They don't want to have the intellectual conversation. It's almost like the easy way out sort of thing. So while yes, there's less overall attention, the attention I'm getting is higher quality, which I prefer.
Right.
Let me say something that's a little psychological here, is that men, like younger women, this is on behalf of those men out there, is they actually see eye to eye more. And let me explain what I mean by that. Is that younger woman usually they just are happy to have someone to take care of them. And that older man usually has that money to do that. A lot of times that younger woman just needs all of that attention and affection and hugging and all of that without, even though it may seem funny, but it's true, without the sexual part of it, because they don't want to get pregnant then and all of that kind of thing. And that older man doesn't have to perform as much. They can impress more and they can do those nice things and all of that. And actually, the truth be told, a lot of reason that younger men prefer older women is they like the maturity that that woman brings and that they're able to take care of themselves and they're not into playing the games and they're not running kids then. They've usually already had theirs. So it's sort of that kind of a psychological thing that goes on. And long time ago, older men did marry younger women. And that was something that was accepted. Yes. And that is where that stigma started with that old maid. But when you look at the circle, I guess the circle of life, is that after a while, even though you're in a certain age bracket now and you may feel like, oh, you know, I'm not getting as much attention or whatever, trust, it will come back around. And when you are more mature and feel good about yourself and in a good place in life, you will get that man that actually wants that now after they have gotten past their change of life, even though they don't like to deal with that. But after that, then they actually want that. And you become that good match again. So if you feel like you're an old maid right now, just hold on a few more years. You will actually become that prize.
Can I say something here? Because I was that young girl one time who married an older man. My husband, we said before, he was 44 something. I was 23, I guess.
Okay. Almost a 20-year age difference.
Yeah. So 22 actually.
Okay.
So I was, Actually, it's terrible to be in this position for the girl. I stopped living. All my dreams, I was no longer living. He promised he would do all that I planned to do in life and help me, but end up that I started living his life and not mine, because he controlled in a way nicely. He was very polite, very kind, very loving, but he controlled my being pretty much. So I was a little girl holding the hand of my father pretty much.
Wow.
And I was, forgive me, Lord, but I was glad when he was gone, because I kind of felt freedom to be myself again.
I get that. I get that. And I
Yeah.
think that's good to let other people know that when you think of that, he's taking care of me, there's the other side to it, as in a little bit more controlled, and that you tend to grow out of as well. As you
Yes.
mature,
Yes.
as you get older, you know, you grow out of that need for someone to handle you and control you. So, I mean, do you feel any negative stigma with being older and single? And if so, where does it come from? You said your family sometimes.
Definitely.
Well, I was gonna, I mean, you know, you feel it from some people, but I've grown up and realized, this sounds awful, but not everybody's opinion counts.
Right.
And so a lot of people give, you know, I mean, as a self-employed single mom, I do not get a lot of positive feedback from the world. People feel like I should be doing a 9-to-5 job. I mean, you know, in the church a lot of times, just being a single parent means you're like walking Sodom and Gomorrah. So I've heard it, and I'm not interested in a lot of people's opinion unless they have been somewhere that I want to go, or whether they are doing something I highly respect. And those people typically are open-minded and respectful and encouraging. And so, you know, if the little boy down the street, who I have no interest in, has something negative to say, good for you.
I know in my own family, like what Ruth said, is my parents were very concerned. You need a man who's going to take care, and you're getting a certain age, and because I'm self-employed, you know, you need somebody who's going to have these kind of benefits and all of that. But I had to know who I was and where my station is in life, and actually this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm living in my purpose right now. And even though, yes, I would love to be married, but this is a very good place, is that I'm going to have a man who brings a level of maturity because of what I bring, and who is very confident and sure of themselves, because I'm not into carrying, you know, anyone.
And I don't want to cut you off, but we have to take a break. But when we
Yes.
come back, we'll keep up with what you're saying. So stay with us so you can stay with the conversation. Okay, so Dr. Renee, we're going to let you pick up where you left off, talking about that feeling coming from family particularly, and why they think you need to be taken care of, you need that man. So go ahead and finish.
Right. And if you're not, as I was saying, if you don't feel confident in yourself, people can actually make you feel less than, and like I'm missing something, you know, missing out on life in some sort of way. The very thing that man between the ages of like 30 and about 45 don't like is our independence and our confidence. Later on, when you're a little bit older, that is what they're attracted to. They actually like that about you, that confidence that you have. And if you feel that old maid mentality, as you say, and just feel like, well, I'll just have all of the cats and dogs or whatever, and I'll just go with this thing, then the likelihood of you finding someone else who has a bunch of cats and dogs, I don't know, you could, but it's very, it's very slim. But it is all cerebral. It is, what do I bring, and what do I have, that is going to, that's going to contribute to this relationship. And as a result of that, I'm not going to settle for anything less, and it'll come to you when you have
and that's the key. You said it's a cerebral thing, and really, that's what I'm getting at too. Even with little comments people may make, your family or friends, when you see a bunch of your girlfriends, maybe you've been hanging out, and they start pairing off and getting married or whatever, and you're kind of left standing like, okay, what about me? And that kind of plays on your psyche. And what do you do with that? How do you keep yourself from being affected by even media messages that we are bombarded with every day about attractiveness and, pulling guys and all of that? I mean, we get a lot of those kind of messages too. So how do you keep that from playing on your psyche to where you're feeling like, dang, what's wrong with me?
I have a very quick solution, is go to Europe. They love women, and they will tell you, oh, you're so gorgeous, oh, you're so fabulous. There you go. And they're not even wanting anything else from you.
Okay,
yes,
so
go
you
on
got
a trip.
Go to Europe, but if you don't have the money to go to Europe, then what do?
You go back online
Don't
and
go
talk
to
to somebody from
Right,
Europe.
Get online and talk to somebody from Europe. I love it.
No, but actually, you really need to go within and try and figure out, why am I allowing this to affect me? Okay. Yes. Am I really feeling like I'm in a good place, or am I just pretending I'm in a good place? And if I'm really not in a good place, then let me do some work and help me get myself in actually a good place. Because as I say, if you're feeling that way, even if you're trying to front with it, the men are going to see that. They're going to feel your desperation. I don't know what that is, but they definitely have that sixth sense of, and you will get played, because they feel that. But if you are like, okay, I'm having this issue, I need to go within myself and find out why I'm allowing my parents to take over how I feel, or my girlfriends, and I'm feeling jealous and sad and lonely. That comes from a whole place, and you need to deal with that. And you may need some single friends as well, where you all can go out and do some things together, because there are definitely some advantages of being older and having your own monies and being able to do some stuff that, you can't do.
Yeah, all very good. Because I think it depends on our attitude. What do you think about our situation? Do I choose? How long? And whatever other people say, it doesn't matter. Now, if I think I really want somebody now, and people are saying, yes, you should have, so then help me. Be honest. Be honest. Say, help me. Let me find somebody. Go online. I don't know what you're going to do, but find somebody. Not pretend one thing and it's something else, And if you find that you're okay, it doesn't matter who says what. God didn't say, you have to get married. God doesn't say it's not a commandment. So if you feel good about yourself, do whatever you want to do and forget what other people say.
I think Ruth brings an excellent point. Some wise person whom I don't recall in my early 20s told me that 90% of life is how you perceive it. Everyone's reality is 90% perception. And so, the same thing can happen, but different people take it and differently look at it differently. And so it's just in how you choose to look at it, which was a powerful thing to me, because I can choose my perception and I can change that, and I can go into the world and see being single as being a positive thing or being a negative thing or being a middle of the road thing. And so that was just very empowering for me.
It's
Okay,
very
go ahead.
interesting is that I hear so often women who decide, I'm just going to give up on it. I'm just done. I feel like I'm going to be single forever. And boom, then the person finds them. It's so amazing. It's when you do and you just are
When
good
you let
with
go.
it. That's it. Let go and bring that positive into the universe, that it'll come to you when you finally just like, okay, if this is what it is, it's what it is. And I'm just going to not postpone enjoyment or travel or whatever the case may be. I'm just going to be okay with where I am. And that's when it comes.
Real quick, do you think that being a Christian or trying to live by biblical principles as a single woman strengthens that stigma any? Does that stigma seem to exist more so within Christian circles than outside?
I do.
You do?
I do. I think because the community is smaller, kind of everybody knows about you, everybody is looking at you, and then expect something like you have to be like everybody else, and then we might feel, I think it's worse in church.
Well, and I think today's culture also lends to, a Christian woman having fewer prospects. I mean, I think I've mentioned before, like in our day and age, it's typically thought of as the third date being sex night. Well, if you're not having sex again until you're married, I mean, you don't get to marry me by the third date. And so, I mean, there's a lot of men who, they want it now, and there's plenty of women willing to give it to them. And so, I think that part of it definitely lends to it. However, there's also a part of the Christian culture. I was at a Catholic church earlier this week, and I mean, they have nuns. And I mean, a nun almost is like the persona of an old maid, someone who has held herself back. And so that kind of, I think, lends itself
The name says it all, none.
Right, right.
and I mean, they're beautiful,
So maybe it's
wonderful
not,
people.
does the old maid exist? Does the nun exist?
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, once again, I think that goes back to perception and who you listen to.
Yes.
So,
April, did you want to share?
Angel.
Angel, sorry.
I said it.
I know.
Look, I know.
Angel, did you want to share?
Well, no, I mean, I just agree with Mindy. It's hard being a single Christian because there are certain things that are just off the table. And there are some people, and I know I've been asked straight off the jump, are you going to? And I'm like, well, no. And they're like, okay. And they're like, gone.
I'm none.
Let's just get it up front.
It's not that you want to be by yourself, but you have standards, and not everybody wants to meet them. You have to, like Dr. Renee said, you have to know your worth. And if you do know this, then you're like, well, no, I'm sorry, you can't stay all night long in my house. It's just not going to work. I have other obligations. This is not the way that I want my life to even appear to the outside world. And no, I don't care about what everyone thinks. I care about what God thinks. And if God said that this is not the way he wants it to be, then it's not the way he wants it to be. He's the only one I have to live with for the rest of my life.
So what do you do when you get the little comments from people, family? So why aren't you settled yet? Or, things like that. Think about that for a minute. And we're going to wrap it up with some of what you share. But first, let's take it back out to the street and see what viewpoints you have on whether or not that old maid stigma still exists.
I found it more so as I started to approach the age of 30 and being single and unmarried, that a lot of people would approach me and be like, what is wrong with you? Why aren't you married? Why don't you try this? Why don't you go here? Even from my siblings, I would get that pressure of, well, we're both married, you're never going to get married. You're 30, you're never going to get married, And as women get older, it's kind of more ingrained in them that at this point in time that things should be this way and lined up in your life. And when it doesn't come that way for you necessarily, it kind of makes you feel like maybe you're a failure at something, and people make it feel like something is completely just wrong with you.
All right, so we're going to end real quick with your response to how do you handle little comments that family members might make or well-meaning church folk might make. I used to hate oh, you're not settled down. When are you going to settle down? I hated that phrase. What do you do?
I'm a little bit obnoxious, honestly. I mean, I tell them I could have been married to 10 different losers by now if I wanted to settle and be married.
Okay.
But it's not just about being married, it's about being married to a good man.
Right. Okay.
I don't get much of that, but if I do, I may not say, but it's like, how is your marriage? And
That's what
many
you're
of
thinking.
them would love to switch places with me.
I hear you.
So-
I hear you.
And of course, I'm a jokester, so mine is more so along the lines of, well, when you find them for me, let me know. That's me.
Two things I would like to leave with. What my favorite saying, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is in the fullness of time. That's it, in the fullness of time. And then the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. And God is not a man that he should lie. And so if you want something, seek God first, and you'll find it in the fullness of time.
Well, Angel said, if you want me to have somebody, find them for me. And that is next week's topic. How do you handle the big fix-up? I know by this time we've all had a lot of those. And so it'll be interesting to find out your stories about those fix-ups, and the good ones and the not so good ones. I hope that you'll join us next week when we talk about how you handle the big fix-up. Remember, we're looking for your feedback. And so hit us up on Twitter at Patty Conwell, Facebook at Patty Conwell, or leave a comment on the YouTube page after you've watched this show. Thanks for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
Baby doll was in the dollhouse, Barbie Ken, how it's supposed to be. But it seems like something's missing from the equation, you and me. Tell me, why am I not having fun? Yeah, in this game we play. Well, if you're tired of trying to fight the fantasy, you need to hear what I have to say. Okay, get your dancing shoes on, we're gonna have some fun today. Hey, hey, single people all over the world say God made me this way. Hey, hey, you don't need nobody else to have some fun today. And just snap your fingers from side to side and say I'm okay. Okay.